Hi guys, welcome to another review session for the data track for the business analysts course on Udacity. Welcome everyone, and I hope you guys are doing great, keeping on track for finishing the coursework before the deadline, and all the best to all of you for the upcoming assessment. Today, we're going to review lesson 7 particularly. We might not finish it because I think there are so many concepts in there that we might take them separately, like we would take marketing to start with, then move on to sales, and then the finance. I hope to at least do one section of that today. I will restrict this session to an hour, and we can break it down into multiple sessions over the days since we have about less than 2 weeks to go. And then we'll do similar exercise for lesson number 8. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, any specific questions regarding any of the quizzes in the coursework, then please chime in the chat and let us know, and we can go through those. We can go through them in the detail that you can understand it better than what has been explained otherwise. And everyone has different ways of arriving at the same answer usually. So hopefully I can help you work around something that might not be as clear in the videos, and just work your way through it or have an understanding from a practitioner's perspective as well. So with that, let's begin. Let me head into the chat and see what you guys have to say. Hi Larzan, hi Medic. Thank you for joining. This is not our regular Pomodoro study with me sessions. So this is like specific review for the coursework that I've been working on. So yeah. But thank you both of you for joining, and I hope you guys are staying healthy, hydrated, happy, and productive. Okay, so let me get the whiteboard started because I believe there's not much Excel in this. There are more formulas that you can do like on a calculator as well. So let me open up a whiteboard so we can actually get working. I appreciate that, Medic. Oh yes, we have to celebrate our No, I don't want you guys to leave. If it's not bothering you, and if it's not because I'll be speaking for most of the session. So I'm happy if you guys can stay. If not, then totally understandable because I will be speaking a lot all throughout the session. So there won't be any quiet time to study as we do in our regular study sessions. Okay. Sign out. Just give me a moment for setting up the whiteboard. Okay. Just when you need the technology to work perfectly for you, it shows you it has all the power in the world against you. But that's okay. We have to work to improve this technology for ourselves. So sorry it's taking a little longer. Okay, looks like I'm signed in. Okay. Do we have it here? Okay. Not showing up. New notebook. Cancel new page. Okay. Let's open up a new page. Okay, we found that. We found our page where we were working, which is good. Okay. Perfect. Hi, Muhammad. Thank you for joining in. I hope you can. I hope I can be of some help. Hi, Minavera. How are you? Glad to see you here. Just give me a moment, guys, and I'll get started. Okay, so here we are with Udacity. Lesson number 7. Okay. Okay, so I have the lesson all down here. Just trying to make sure it fits within the screen so we can all see. Okay. Yeah. So guys, I'll put 60 minutes on the clock. And we'll get started and see how far we can get. Muhammad Salman, if you have any particular questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat so I know what I need to focus on more. But I will be going through the Slack channel and seeing what questions people had most trouble with, so that we can get that sorted out more so that more people can benefit. Okay. Lerzan, we're not doing any innovation technology. We're just doing business analyst related, some business metrics today. So, well, let's get started. So, lesson 7 talks more about the theoretical aspects of a business analyst, marketing, growth, sales, and finance. In marketing, it talks about customer acquisitions and marketing efforts, return on investment on the marketing campaigns, and how to get those kind of metrics and to assess how your business is doing overall, or how those marketing campaigns are doing overall, whether it's wise to spend as much as you are doing on a certain platform, for example, or a certain campaign, to see whether it's working or not, how effective has it been to get new customers, and to see if you did get new customers, was it worth it, in the sense that did those customers end up buying for that value or more. So are you making money on that, or are you losing money on that? Because marketing these days in the digital age is very different, and you can actually spend millions of dollars on Facebook ads and Instagram ads and stuff like that. So it's really good to know whether the spending that you're doing is it effective, and if some of them are effective than the others, you know where to double down on, right? To increase your growth in terms of number of customers, and also the sales that each customer brings in. So basically, it is to grow your top line eventually by getting new customers and getting existing customers to spend more. And then, the sales, and then the finance part of it. So I thought that was too much in this particular lesson to go all at once. So we'll be starting off with the marketing aspect, and then going forward and seeing maybe doing finance totally in the next section. So starting off with key performance indicators. These are the indicators which they differ from industry to industry and also business to business. They are certain metrics that tells you how the business is doing overall, in the sense that these are some ratios, you could say, some key metrics, like some numbers that would make sense of how you're growing, where you're growing. Like it could be regional. If you have like a global business, you could have key metrics from your business from different regions, to see which regions are growing, which are not growing, what's happening everywhere. And as they say, key performance indicators are used by business analysts, and they can differ from business to business and industry to industry. They could be same per industry, but then again, the availability of the kind of data that goes into a key performance indicator is it can be different from organization to organization, because every organization collects data differently, and it collects different data also, and collects it differently, and then makes it accessible to people in the organization differently too. So you may be a business analyst in an organization in one industry, and your peers in the same industry but a different organization could be having a different KPI to work with within their organization, based on what the organization's focus is or what data is available to them. The businesses might be collecting all the data, but collecting data and making it available to all the people in the organization is also a very different thing. So you might have that kind of data with you, but that might not be accessible to you as a business analyst because of whatever data extraction and pipeline procedures the organization follows. So it can differ, because I know this was one question that was concerning some people, that how can business analysts have different KPIs in the same industry, and there was confusion around the wording of this on Slack. I tried to explain it over there as well, that business analysts can have access, could be using different KPIs in the same industry in different organizations, just because they have access to different kind of data. So for example, one organization could be looking at their sales data from for each product in each region. The other organization in the same industry, let's say grocery chains, the other organization would actually be getting it regional, as well as product wise, as well as day wise, or you could say store wise in that particular region. So they would have a better view into each location of their grocery chains, for example Walmart. So the data that analyst has for all that location based as well, can do a deeper dive into location based campaigns and stuff like that, versus the analyst who just has access to sales data from a regional and product perspective. So the difference in data available to both business analysts can change as to what they can track and what key metrics they would use in order to explain how the business is doing, what the business flow is like, and what are the wins and what are not. How can you measure the health of a business or growth for that matter? I hope that is not too confusing. So it says that every KPI, every department has their own KPI, because of course you will not be judging a research and development department by the sales amount, because that's not relevant to them. So every department has relevant key performance indicators that helps the management to see how that particular department within an organization is also doing. So please identify which KPI is used by business analysts checking for. So by each department, they have linked. They've linked this. I'll just open this up. They've linked this example KPIs by department and industry, and it's a good look. It's a good way to get familiarizing yourself with what KPIs really mean. So, for example, marketing KPIs would be related to the marketing campaign, like cost per lead, landing page conversion, engagement rate, which we will be touching a little bit in detail in the next few minutes. Finance would be more about the profit margins and working capital, or you could say operating margins, and so on and so forth. But for HR, the human resources, it's about the training costs, cost of bringing employees on board and stuff like that, overtime hours. Similarly, for customer service, it would be actually response times to see how effective our customer service is and how long do customers have to wait, because that is the metric that matters to the customer service department particularly. And then customer retention, as to how many people actually, for example, if customer service is dealing with sales issues, online sales issues, and people cannot get through their carts and stuff. So if they were able to solve that, that would actually add up to sales. Or if they're not dealing with the actual carts of the clients, they're dealing with different customer issues like return issues, after sales service issues, product inquiry issues. That's how we'll know what kind of what the customers are doing and how we can help them so that they end up being loyal to the company and making purchases. Then IT department has total different. IT department is what actually is not customer facing most of the time, and it's internal. It helps other departments in the sense that it helps with the IT projects within the organization. So their thing is server downtime, which would affect internal and external, of course. If your servers are down, customers are not able to access your online store, for example. So that's something that's relevant to IT department. And also total tickets versus open tickets. Tickets are basically help desk issues that people put in. It could be internal. It's usually internal. So if I am in the sales department and I cannot log into my account, I open a ticket. So I put a question or a help desk issue in the system where the IT person sees it and then responds to it and gets that resolved. So that's like the ticket. That is something that's relevant to IAT people, where they see how many tickets did they get in and how many are still open. That means they haven't resolved them yet. So that's the kind of metric that would help us understand how the IT department is doing. So if we need more people, if we have so many open tickets, then you need more people to make sure, there are enough people to respond to those, and so on and so forth. So that's how business leaders can make a decision on what to do in terms of hiring more people or getting people with certain skills based on what kind of questions you're getting. Oh, sorry, you guys cannot see my screen. Sorry about that. But if you're following through with the course on your screen, that should just be fine. So KPIs by industry. Then we have food services industry, which has a different KPI altogether. then something in like construction, educational services. So these are relevant to the kind of business they're in. So going back, so they're just asking you certain questions. If you went through that list on the other link, you should be able to handle this just as well. Then there's this V-card study. So as they say, business has two primary goals: increase revenue and reduce costs. Basically, that's maximizing shareholder wealth is a business organization's, what do you call it, motto, to increase shareholder wealth. And how does shareholder wealth increase? By increasing profits year on year. And how do you increase profits? You either increase your revenue and keep your costs the same, so your profits will increase, or you reduce your costs, keep your revenues the same, your profit will still increase. But if you increase your revenues and decrease your costs, your profits will increase, by both the factors. So that'll be a greater jump for sure. So those are the two ways you can actually control how much profit you make. So again, metrics, because if you increase your revenues and you increase your costs by the same amount, you'll actually end up not making any extra profit. You'll be doing more sales, more costs and everything, but that's not going to increase your profits, and hence no change in shareholders' wealth. So keep that in mind. Okay, then looking at V-card, moving on. Okay, so here we start with marketing. Marketing used to be on newspapers, radios, televisions, but now it's different. It's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Google Search, LinkedIn, influencers, and so many other platforms. And how you can track how many people have seen it, or how can you track how many customers? Like if you were to place an ad in a newspaper, how would you track how many customers saw that ad? Would be based on the distribution of that newspaper in the local region, as to how many people subscribe to that newspaper. So this newspaper ended up in thousands of people's homes, and on an average, even if one person reads the newspaper in the house, it would go through their eyes. So that's how you would determine how many people actually saw your ad to begin with, what your who are you showing this, how many. So that is what is impression, later in the course, means how many impressions did your particular ad made, in terms of the market, and how many of those are target markets, because some people might see your ads, and if it's not relevant, they would just move on because they're not your target market. So for example, if you were to advertise in the subway, in the subway trains, then you would forecast the impressions that ad would make, is how many people go through that subway every day, and that particular cabin that you placed your ad in, how many people go through that cabin every day, and then chances of how many people seeing that, that particular one ad in one corner. So that's how you would actually forecast it. So how many people actually saw your ad. And then from there you see how many people were relevant to you, how many people, how relevant was that ad to the kind of people that saw. And then from there we see the marketing funnel that I'll be speaking about a little later. But now it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, digital marketing, right? For digital marketing, it is a little easier because you have cookie tracking, which is whenever you go to a website, you get asked about cookie settings. Basically, that's how websites put a cookie on your browser, and they can track as to what did you like, what kind of clicks did you make, where are you from, your IP and all that stuff. So they can track you that way, and they can actually track you all over the web. This is why when you search anything on your browser, for example, and if you have Facebook activated somehow, you see those relevant ads on Facebook, because they track what you do elsewhere, or what you even speak. Like some people have said that they saw ads related to what they were talking about to their friends, like verbally, because our devices are listening to us. They're tracking everything we do, everywhere we go. So that's how they enable these tracking materials, tracking through cookies, and there are so many other ways you can do that. So what they do is they hear what you are looking for, and then they show you relevant ads on Facebook. So that's how Facebook knows what ad to show you, and because it will be relevant to you, you will be more inclined to click on it. If you are a parent and if someone shows you baby related ads, you'd be interested in that. But if you are a single person, if you are a teenager and someone shows you diaper ads, that's irrelevant, right? That's how Facebook figures out what may be relevant to you by tracking you all over the web. So does Google, all these companies. So they track your digital presence and then show you relevant targeted ads. Okay, moving on. Cookie tracking. Okay. So the growth of, so now they're saying process flow of growth is either you increase the number of customers that would bring in more revenue because more people will be buying your product, or you make existing customers buy more, or both. That's how your business will grow in terms of the top line. Increasing growth would also affect your costs for sure, but the growth of the business, because the way a business is seen to be growing is like, for example, Apple. Revenue is one thing, but then number of customers who buy Apple products, if that grows year on year, people are interested in the product, and then you can make those customers loyal enough to buy more from you. So if, for example, you don't buy any Apple products, the first step for Apple for you would be to make you buy some product through targeted ads, of showing you the ads shown to you versus who's already an Apple loyal person might be different. Like they'll be showing you how it's better over an Android system or something. So that would be targeted towards you to convert you into a customer to begin with, make you buy, let's say, an iPhone. Once you have that iPhone, then they'll target you with ads that might incline you to buy other things like AirPods and then MacBooks and stuff like that. So first they would get new customers and then make those customers buy more from them, because getting a new customer is usually always more expensive. Once you have a customer, making them spend more is easier if your product is good, what you're offering is good enough, because finding a new customer takes a lot of effort and a lot of money. Once you are a customer and you've experienced the product, then it's easier for them to convince you to do to buy other products as well. Usually that's what's seen. So we'll be talking about that as well. So here they say business process for growth is basically increase new customers and increase the order size and repeated orders of existing customers. Then they're talking about customer journey. So what happens is, customer journey is, how does it start? Let me actually just open up the chat to see if someone has to say anything about it. Nothing yet. That's fine. Suleiman, if you're still with us, please feel free to share any particular concept that you had trouble with within that within whatever we're doing so far. Okay, moving on. Okay. So moving on, how you start as a company is you first create awareness of your products. Then you generate interest in the customer. Then you generate the desire for that customer to buy your product. Then you make the customer buy, that's like a purchase, and then you have post-purchase marketing. So these are the different levels of marketing. So if you're a new company, you first make everyone aware that you exist and what you do. Then you launch your products by telling them, by showing why people should be interested in your product, then make that interest turn into a desire, and then convert that into purchase, and so on and so forth. Call to action is one vocabulary item, which means if you have like a digital, let's say a website, you go and they are creating awareness about their product. You go and you learn about what they're doing, what the product is, but there's no button that you can click and do something, so there's no action, then that awareness is kind of useless in the sense that, for example, signing up for a newsletter, or going to the shop, going to the online shop, or add to cart and stuff like that. Those buttons that we see on the website are call to actions, which make the customer or potential customer do something, interact in a way that shows that their interest keeps growing, keep them in the loop. If there was a website that just explained about what Apple did and what products it has, but it had no button on buy now, or any of that, then that would be useless, because that would just create awareness, interest, and desire. But without that call to action, nobody could actually purchase your products, and that would actually create frustration. If you go to a website that's not well laid, you go and you're finding where to click and what to do next. That's what causes frustration, and people just go offline. They just leave your website. So always have call to action. Even if you don't have a product to sell, you can have a sign up, we'll let you know when we launch. So that's like a call to action that good websites usually have. And then post purchase is once you have the customer, they've purchased something. Post purchase, you get emails. If you've shopped online, you get a thank you email, and then you get feedback emails. And then if you have shopped once over there and you haven't gone back again since then, they'll send you coupons, or they'll send you emails saying, hey, we thought you would like something like this just because you bought XYZ a few days ago. So that's like post purchase kind of marketing. So marketing funnel, as you can see on the screen as well. So impressions and reach. This is what we talked about as to who sees the ad, like where is it placed, and how many eyes does it go through. In the digital world, you can actually have that number, because if, let's say, you are doing Facebook ads, Facebook will tell you how many people it showed your ad to. So how many users saw your ad because it was on their screen while they were scrolling. That's an impression. Impressions for a newspaper ad is way more difficult, because you might have a newspaper distribution, if any, in this time. But then again, with that, how many people actually open that page, it's hard to tell. But with digital, they can actually track you, because they'll show you on the screen in the middle of your scrolling, like your Facebook feed or something. So impressions on the digital level are easier, more accurate than your other non-digital media. Then you have impressions is who saw your ad, the overall reach of your ad in the population. And then through that, how many people interacted with your ad. So it's basically, you show ads to thousands of people. Out of those thousands of people, some people actually do something about it. They click on those ads. That's like, interest. So that would convert into a lead. Then that lead, those few people coming from thousands of people, will be your potential leads. They will want to know more about your product. So let's say if there was a Facebook ad, for example, that Facebook ad was shown to everybody in a certain region, for example. Let's say 100,000 people. Out of those 100,000 people, 50% of the people actually clicked on the ad. Others kept scrolling. So you've shown the ad to 100,000 people. 50,000 people out of that actually clicked. So the 50,000 people are now your leads, because they interacted with your ad because it felt relevant to them. So lead is someone who is a potential customer more than the general public. So the impressions were the general public for you. And then out of those, people who showed interest were your leads now. Out of those 50,000, you say 20% of the people actually went and did something else, like interacted more. So out of those leads, out of those 50,000 leads, 20% of people, let's say, purchased something. So you acquired those customers. Once someone makes a purchase, they are an acquired customer. So out of those 50,000, 20%, which would be 10,000 people, actually they just not clicked on your website, but they ended up purchasing anything. So that's your customer acquisition, because now how many customers do you have? You have 10,000 customers out of the 100,000 you showed the ads to. So that's how the funnel flows. And from those 10,000 people that purchased became your customers, you see what was the cost to bring these 10,000 people in. You were pay, but what you pay with, you never know how many customers will come through. What you pay, the digital marketing, is based on impressions. You tell Facebook, show my ad to, let's say, 50,000 people. So you pay for 50,000 people or the clicks. So how many leads you got. So either you're paying on a reach level, or you're paying on how many clicks. So you'll pay Facebook as to how many people clicked. So that would be 50,000. So you paid for 50,000 clicks, but that only generated 10,000 customers for you. So the cost per customer is something that we have to calculate during these modules. So after the customer is acquired, those customers either come back to make regular purchases, or their order size increases. And then there are two levels after that. One is loyalty, where they keep coming back and doing stuff. Another level is when your customer is super impressed and happy with the purchase they made. They tell their friends and family, and they bring everybody else on board. That's called advocacy. Sometimes advocacy is just you say organic, when you like a product and you talk about it with your friends, like you should try this and this and that. But then other is where, for example, Uber, it tells you, bring a friend, we'll give you $30 and they'll get $30 worth of rides free. So that's something that comes into referrals and advocacy, because now you tell your existing customers to be your marketer for you for free. So basically impress your customer enough so that they cannot stop talking about it. So people put posts on Instagram about, oh, I tried this product, this is amazing, you totally recommend it. Those are voluntary, and that's what advocacy is. So that's what this is about. So the quiz, what quiz is this? This is quiz 1 in section 8. So it says have questions being addressed within the funnel level. Okay. Have the leads purchased anything on the website? So that is when the leads, if they purchase anything on the website, for example, as we talked about, the leads convert into a customer. So that's called a conversion. Are we reaching out to the potential customers? That's the impression and the reach, the top level, because we will be telling Facebook who to show these ads to. Like either it's a regional target, as to show it in this city because you have something city specific, or you can say show it to people of a certain age group. If you are selling ripped jeans, you will not be selling it to grandmas. So you'll be actually telling Facebook to show those ads to a certain group, a certain age of people that the ripped jeans actually, interests them. So that's the potential customer that you have in mind for your product, and that's your reach and impressions, right? That's the reach, basically. Are the potential customers engaging with the website? So when you have the reach and impressions, and they click, that's your lead generation. So if they engage with the website, that's a lead until they actually make a purchase. Are the loyal customers sharing Facebook posts about the company's products and services? That, again, as we spoke about, was advocacy. What % of paid customers are returning customers? So this is where loyalty comes in, as we spoke about actual customers converting into loyalty and advocacy. Both. Loyalty is when they keep coming back for more purchases. Advocacy is when they bring their friends on board. Our potential customers seek the ad is the impression. Let me know if there is any questions regarding that. That's glad to hear, Mohammed. And let me know if this is helpful or we should keep moving faster. Any feedback is really appreciated. Okay, for the new vocabulary, search engine optimization. This is basically the way you optimize your search results on, let's say, Google or any other platform where people search for a certain service that you provide. So you want to make sure that if people search for certain keywords, your website shows up on top, but specifically. And so, for example, when you search something on Google, how to do this, and if that's something that your blog shows or has a blog about, you would want that to show up first. So the way these search engines like Google and Bing and Opera and all these different search engines work, you would want to be on the first by seeing what do they link, like how do these search engines find that on the web. And you want to optimize for those, like having the right keywords in your text, in your website development, in your so that's what a developer does. It puts in literal keywords at certain places so that the search engines can find you quicker and better, so they can show you on top and show you as most relevant. That's what search engine optimization is. Lead, as we spoke about, is a potential customer who showed some interest from the impressions and the reach that we had, but still hasn't purchased anything, has interacted with you, but hasn't purchased anything. Conversion is when the lead actually converts into a customer. Repurchase rate is how quickly people, how loyal customers, how quickly do they come back, how frequent are they coming back. Net promoter score, that is a metric that is used by companies to see how likely a customer is to. This is the question that you might get at most of the websites where they say, how likely are you to come back or refer to a friend. Refer to a friend is usually the most common one. And then there's a scale of 1 to 10. So that is a net promoter score, because they will see how much will you be willing to promote them if you like their service. Because if you really like something, you'll want to tell your friends and family about it. So that net promoter score is taken as a metric to see how's the company doing, in the sense that they assess the market that they're catering to, and that's how a lot of companies see how they can grow their market reach and grow their customers and all that stuff. So you can read all these pages, these Medium blogs and Wikipedia page. But net promoter score is something that you might have mostly seen on the websites. Once you make a purchase or something, they'll give you like a question on screen. How likely are you to refer a friend based on your experience today, and so on and so forth. So click-through rate. Now we are in the funnel over here. So impressions and click-through rate. So for example, the impressions in our previous example was 100,000 people. How many people really clicked was 50,000 people. That's how they came to your website, right? That's how they engaged with your ad. Glad to hear, Mohammed, that it's helpful. I'll continue. So impressions, how many clicks did you get on those impressions? So a Facebook ad, how many people really clicked? So out of the 100,000 it was shown to, 50,000 actually clicked to it. So that's your click-through rate. What was your click-through rate? 50%, because 50% of the people actually ended up clicking. Although this is a very high for industry standards, click-through rates are very low for ads, like less than 20% is still considered, I think, good, depending on your industry again. But for example, I used 50% so that we can identify the numbers of how many people ended up buying. Just mental math is easier that way. So yeah. And usually your ads, digital ads, are paid on a per click basis. So if Facebook shows this to 500,000 people and only 50% actually click, you actually pay per click kind of a marketing campaign. So you pay so there's a rate of per click and you pay that much, or you pay a lump sum without knowing how many clicks there would be or whatever, and then you find this metric out as to how much did it cost you to get a lead. And what's a lead? Someone who engaged. So how many people really clicked. So if you spent, let's say, $1 million on a campaign on Facebook, and you had 50,000 people coming in from that, like by clicking that, then your cost per click would be $1 million divided by 50,000 people. Okay. So for example, over here it shows Facebook ad impressions. So Facebook showed it to 1,100 people. There were 15 clicks. So that's where you get the click-through rate, which was 50% in our case, which I said was insanely high for sure. But yeah, these are the kind of click-through rates you have. Later in the session, later in the module, they also talk about the click-through rates of different platforms as well. So these are around 1%, and we're talking about 50% just because of easy mental math. Okay, interpretation of click-through rate. We kind of touched on that. Just seeing if you haven't missed anything. Okay, so click-through rate is what tells you as a company as to how relevant of people are you reaching. For example, you were selling ripped jeans and you put a Facebook ad out for that, and you say target anywhere from 12-year-olds, because that's when they start making purchase decisions, versus like, go up to 45-year-olds. And that's the only filter you put in, and then you see your click-through rate to be 0.5% or something. Then you say, okay, out of those, what you can do is, out of those, whoever clicked, you see where they're coming from, what age group further does it divide down to. So you narrow your campaign filters to make sure your click-through rate goes up, because you don't want to show an ad to a bunch of people who it's irrelevant. You kind of narrow it down. Excuse me. So you show the excuse me. So once you've placed that campaign once, now you have more information coming from that campaign as to who are the people who clicked, and when was the ad shown, and if it was shown in different times, when was the time that people engage with the ad more. So like, for example, a 12-year-old might not be sitting on Facebook in the middle of the day since they'll be in school, but a 45-year might be on Facebook first thing in the morning, or during their break time if they are at work. So you would want to focus on how to get your click-through rate high by segmenting your current leads and seeing what's working for what kind. So you might want to then say, okay, for 12 to 18 years old people who are in high school or middle school, and might not have access to their phones during certain times, you would show the ads right after school, like around 3 p.m. But for professionals, let's say 21 to 45, you show them around 12 p.m., which would be their break time at work. So they might be scrolling through Facebook. That way you can increase your click-through rate. So if you're showing this ad to, so if, for example, you were showing this ad to 100,000 people and only 50,000 clicked, now you can increase that from, you show it to the same 100,000 people, but now your click-through rate goes up and you end up with 75,000 people who, click on your ads. So that's how you can use this click-through rate to improve the efficiency or your reach for better customers in terms of your marketing ROI, which is return on investment. Marketing costs are your investments in getting the customers, and the return is how many customers do you end up getting and how much they end up spending, and so on and so forth. We have 21 minutes on the clock, and let's see how much we can get through. Which ad platform had the highest click-through rate? That's based on the data file that they had. So let me just open the data file and see. So the data file has, I don't think you'd be able to see this though. Let me see if you guys can see this. No. Okay, if you click on that data sheet with you, it won't show up on my screen for some reason, but I won't waste time with that since you guys can all open it at your end. It has ad campaigns, it has impressions, it has clicks, it has total spend. Total spend would be the amount of dollars you paid for that ad, and then total leads. So what is your click-through rate? Your click-through rate would be how many people were shown the impressions and how many clicks did you get, right? So you do impressions divided by the actual amount of clicks. So you had a click-through rate of 33. Wait. Sorry, clicks divided by impressions. I was like, why are my numbers so crazy? So the click rates you get are 31172, and the question asked you which ad platform has the highest click-through rate. The highest click-through rate would be Google Display, which is around 7. Let me see how much it actually is with the decimal. It's 7.32. Moving on, which of the following ad platforms were the 2 lowest click-through rates? So you just do that. Okay. Another concept is a unique click-through rate. So that's basically, as the name suggests, unique in the sense that, let's say you were doing an email campaign and you send a link to someone, they end up clicking it, but then they did that 4 or 5 more times. That will not count as 5 people clicking on it. That will be like, because now you can track each customer using their cookie settings and putting cookies on their browsers and stuff like that. So you know who. So cookies is not just for tracking for marketing purposes, it's for a lot of other purposes. For example, cookie settings also helps you keep your cart in your so for example, your cart doesn't vanish every time you move away from the cart, right? Your cart gets saved. That functionality in a website comes through cookies. So you can actually place cookies on the browser of the user and then attach it to their username. So every time you sign in, you have that cart with you, which is a very good feature for an online shopper. But then, because cookies, people say cookies are tracking things and they're not that great, and but they do provide some functionality other than just tracking you all over the internet. They actually track something for your benefit where you can save your unfinished carts and stuff like that. Sorry for digressing. Coming back, with the cookies and everything, they see how many times the same person is clicking and they would count that as one. Because just imagine if I showed this ad to 10 people, if I sent an email to 10 people and each person opened it once, I would have a click-through rate of 100%. But if one person opened it, I would have a click-through rate of 1%, 10%. But if one person who opened my email opened it 10 times, I would have 10 clicks for 10 people, 100% click-through rate. But that's not true because it's just one customer. So that comes into perspective as to why you would want to know, how many times like the same person does that clicking, because the same person is still one customer at the end of the day, and they might not be purchasing as much as 10 customers. So you would want to know whether one person is doing it over and over again or different people are doing it, so you can garner you can see how many people are actually interested in it. So the 10 people you sent out the email to, how many people are actually interested in what you had to say. So that's where unique click-through rate comes into play, because you can have one person doing it 10 times and your click-through rate would be 100%, but that's not the actual the reality of the situation. Okay. Cost per click. Cost per click, as they say, first figure out how many clicks there are and how much did you spend total. So you will get an average cost per click that you ended up paying for. So for example, coming back to our previous Excel workbook, Excel data, where we got the click-through rates were. Now let's calculate cost per click. Cost per click would be the total that you ended up spending. Like for example, $3.15 for Facebook. divided by the number of clicks that you had were 450 clicks. So cost per click would be 0.7 for Facebook and about 0.23 for Google, YouTube. I'm doing it on my end. You can follow along with the Excel sheet. So cost per click is that. They actually also show it to you over here. So cost per click is cost of advertising on the platform divided by the number of viewers who clicked. So number of clicks basically. All these formulas are actually in a PDF. And this PDF, if you cannot find it here in the course, it's also linked in the Slack channel. So you can go check them out over there. People have posted over there as well. The PDF of all of these formulas, if you can't remember the specifics. I think that would be very handy for the assessment part. Mohammed, I actually will just go through everything because this is like my personal revision too. So I'll keep going through everything, seeing how much time it takes. And because we don't have much time, I'll try to do all of that during this week. Next week, I might not be able to stream. So I just want to do everything this week and get done with it. So I'll try, I'll see, I'm not sure how long it takes for each session, but if we can get done until the finances today, that would be awesome. But let's see how it goes. But it could be every other day, depending on how many more sessions we need. But if we need only 2 more sessions, for example, for let's say one for the finance part and one for the lesson 8, then I'll just do every other day. I'll try to spread it out as much as I can. Okay, next up, cost per lead. Okay, cost per lead. Now you have the clicks and then you have the number of leads, right? So 450 people clicked and the leads were 54 people. So over here, impressions of the people who the ad was shown to. Then out of those 450 people actually clicked on that ad and came to your website. And once coming on the website, who engaged with the website, that's your lead. And then out of those who engaged with your website, the leads, how many people ended up purchasing? So that's the funnel that we're working with here. So now it says cost per lead. You know the cost, the total spend on each platform, and how many people actually came through the ad on the website, but also engage with the website. Like sometimes you click on certain things and you don't like what you see and you just bounce off of the website. So you will not be considered a lead. Sometimes people click on things by mistake as well. Like it happens to all of us, right? While we're scrolling something, our thumb hits something and we open some ad or something, but we didn't mean to. So we just close the window right away. So that's still a click, but it's not a lead because we're not interested parties unless we engage with the content we see after clicking and coming to the website or whatever web page we are taken to. So cost per lead would be, again, your dollars divided by how many leads that actually generated. So cost of advertising divided by number of leads. This says it's an indicator of the cost effectiveness of the ad platform, of course, because now you know how many people are actually interested in the website. So clicks might not be, clicks might be somewhat interested, or maybe, they weren't sure what it was, or it was a click by mistake. Nonetheless, that means they saw your ad for sure. For them to click, they for sure saw your ad. That's for sure. But then after clicking, when they come to your website or your web page or whatever, did they engage? If they like something, you'll scroll up and down. That's engagement. And websites can track that. How much time do you spend on each section or each page of the website? What do you click on the website? Where do you click on the website? Stuff like that. How many times you go back and forth? All this is traceable. So you're being traced by the companies, not just for the tracking aspect of it, but to improve their their service to you, because sometimes like these metrics are not just helpful for marketing, but also product management. what happens is a lot of product people go and see the website and see where are the people bouncing off of, in the sense that a lot of people were clicking on the add to cart and then never making a purchase. So they could see a lot of people adding things to cart, and it was beyond them as to why they would not purchase. It seemed that this click button was not taking to them to the cart page eventually, so they were not able to purchase, and those leads were not converting into customers. So that's something that certain companies figured out, that there's a problem with their website. Nobody complained about it. They just lost interest. The customers lost interest and went away. So this tracking can be really helpful. These metrics, these marketing metrics are good for the marketing aspect, but they're also useful for other project management teams or product teams, where they see what product's doing well and not well and stuff like that. That was just like the background of how a company might use these metrics for their own benefit. So a cost per click is something that is relevant to the marketing side, to see what how effective your marketing is, versus the number of clicks versus the purchases made is more relevant to the product or the website building team, to see why if people are having trouble with some buttons, or where they're spending most of their time, whether they can access different pages of the website, and so on and so forth. So the same kind of data, the amount of clicks, can be used by different business analysts in different departments, marketing department as well as web page development department, for example. Then you have cost per leads. Then your customer acquisition cost. Until and unless the person who is engaging with your website, clicking on your ads, they don't purchase anything, they are not your customers. The customer is the one who actually pays for your product or service. That's the simplest way. Customer acquisition cost is how much did you pay and how many customers did you end up getting from there. That's your customer acquisition cost. You paid 1 million for that Facebook ad, but you only had 10 people purchasing. So your customer acquisition cost is pretty high. So your total sales and marketing costs divided by converted customers. Now over here, customer acquisition cost is sales and marketing. If you look at the sales and marketing costs, it is the salaries of people in sales and marketing, and also your campaign spending, right? So they have given you different methods. The first method says total sales and marketing costs divided by number of paid customers that you got. Customer acquisition cost is calculated now breaking down the total sales and marketing costs into a further more targeted formula is prior month marketing costs plus weighted average costs of overhead and salaries divided by the number of paid customers. This is saying to account for the lag in revenue. For example, you were shown an ad at the end of the month on, let's say, 31st of January, but you end up making a purchase by 5th of February. You don't make a purchase right away, but you like something, you research about it, you did click though, because you were interested and you learned about it, but you did not make a purchase until the 5th of February. So you were actually, the cost to get to you was taken account into the month of January, but you actually ended up paying in February. So there's a lag in the actual marketing and sale happening, but the cost to acquire you has been paid in January. So that should be taken into account there, which is why this method, this customer acquisition formula, takes into account the lag there is from marketing to sales by weighting average costs of overhead and salaries. That's the idea behind this. And then CAC is an indicator of how much it costs to acquire a customer, of course. If they spend $1 million for 10 customers and each customer buys like a $10 worth of goods, you're getting $100 by spending $1 million, which does not make business sense. You're spending way more than the sale that you're getting. So this tells you how much do you expect, or how much should you be spending to get X amount of customers by having, you can say, relevant click-through rates. If you know Facebook has a click-through rate of 3%, which is still pretty high though, but still 3%, you know how many people to reach out to get to an X amount of leads and then X amount of customers and so on and so forth. So you have to assess how much should you be spending to get X amount of customers who would be spending X amount on your product or service. If you end up spending way more and getting no sale, not enough sale for that marketing channel is not the right channel for you, or your, the kind of customers or the kind of product you're selling. Like, for example, if you are selling a high ticket item, like a Mercedes car or a Rolex watch, you spend $1 million and you still get 10 customers, but each customer ends up spending a lot. So that million in that context makes sense. Like, if Mercedes spends $1 million on their marketing campaign and gets 10 customers, they sell 10 cars. And that's way more than the million. So the revenue generated over there is way more. Versus a shoe company. Their shoes are for, let's say, $1,000. Like, insane, but still $1,000. And you get 10 customers. You only get $10,000 worth of revenue. And you spend $1 million to get those 10 customers is not worth it. So it really depends on the context of how many customers you'll have, but also the amount that each customer will spend. Because if you show a Mercedes ad and people actually end up buying, they won't end up buying $1,000 stuff. They'll be buying the car, right? So that's a big ticket item. For Mercedes, it makes sense, but for a shoe company, not really. So then you use this formula of customer acquisition costs to get to these numbers. Pretty straightforward. So now they are showing you the conversion funnel. In the beginning, we spoke about how you create awareness, and then interest, the desire, and then conversion. So awareness, this is where you have your reach and impressions, and then you click, and that's where you have your interests. So you have those people who are interested, and then the desire is the people who are your leads, who are interacting, putting stuff in the cart and stuff like that. That's the desire. And the conversion is actually when you get paid customers. That's the conversion funnel. Then conversion rates. What does this say? So the conversion rates have now the conversion part from engaging with your website to converting into a customer. Arrived on site, let's say 1,000 people arrived on your site. So many people downloaded your brochure. Then so many people added stuff to your cart. And then X amount of people actually ended up purchasing. So that's your conversion funnel. As to how many people were interested was 1,000 who ended up clicking on the ad to get to your site. And then downloaded the brochure. That means they became leads. Those leads actually added items to the cart. So they are still leads, but they're way closer. They call hot leads. That they are more inclined to, because they're making more action. They're taking more actions towards the step to purchase. And then once they purchase, they get converted into a customer. So they are, let me see, what formula are they telling us over here? Let's go to the next one. So yeah, they're explaining the same thing that we've been talking about, and the formulas are on the screen. I mean, I don't see why the formulas would be difficult to put in the numbers. They're pretty straightforward. And if you have the formula sheet with you, that shouldn't be a problem. The only problem was to, like, people are having trouble understanding why are we taking last month's marketing costs and averaging them and stuff like that we spoke of, because of the lag in when you market and versus when the people purchase. Like, for example, Mercedes. You show an ad to a certain person who is interested, who would be your customer, doesn't go and buy a car right away. They have to either go to your website and then find local dealers and go there and, sign a bunch of stuff. So the sales cycle happens over time. It doesn't happen over 5 minutes. Versus a deal on, let's say, a fast fashion brand. It might take you only 30 minutes to actually make a sale. You like something, you see it's on sale, you go click, you add to cart and you end up purchasing it. So that's a very quicker sales cycle versus something like a big ticket item like a house or a car. It takes time. So there's a bigger lag from marketing to sales. That's why you have to have those kind of averages to see the marketing costs you incurred in a certain month are paying off as sales in another month. Then there's a concept of lifetime value. Lifetime value is how much would a customer, if you do end up getting that customer, how much would that customer purchase from you over the lifetime? We are over our 1 hour mark. I don't know when that happened, but I think I'm going to stop after this lifetime value, because I think after this lifetime value, we're touching the sales funnel. So I will be cutting off after this and we'll be doing sales funnel in our next session. So lifetime value, it is basically how much would a customer spend with you over the lifetime till they loyal, till they stay with you. For example, there's a person who purchases clothes every week, 1 item per week. There's same company. There's a customer who purchases 1 item a month. The third kind of customer purchases 1 item per quarter, and then another customer purchases 1 item per year. So you see the difference. The one who purchases every week purchases 52 times a year, and then the person who purchases once a month ends up purchasing 12 times a year, so on and so forth, right? So the value of each customer would be different for the business. They may be the same people who clicked on the ad and came to your website and got converted into customers. But within those people who did end up converting into customers from leads, they're different kinds. So you have high value customers and low value customers. Then again, maybe the person who's purchasing once a year purchases a lot more in value. They purchase, let's say, 10,000 worth. But the person making weekly purchases only purchases total of 5,000 in a year. So you have to identify what kind of customers are highest paying customers and what the lifetime value of that customer is, not just the annual. Then you say, okay, annually this is their purchase, this customer's purchase. How many years do they stick with you until moving on? For example, teenage clothing brand. You know the teenagers that get converted at, let's say, 12, 13 would stick to you with your brand until maybe 16 or 17. Beyond that, their fashion taste would change. You will not be able to cater to them beyond that. So you know the customer lifetime value would be based on those, 4 or 5 years that they are within that age. Beyond that, they would lose interest in your brand and they'll move on to brands with clothing for their appropriate age. So that's like 4 or 5 years is the time period you can have a customer for. And then if you have customers who buy once every month, you can expect how much do they buy, like what's the size of the order that they make every month. And then with that, how much can you expect them to spend over the 4 or 5 years, the lifetime of that customer for you? Once they grow out of that age, they're not your customers anymore. They're not your target market anymore. So that lifetime value is how much a customer will end up purchasing from you till they stick with your brand. So that's in order to calculate that, the formula given is average sale, number of repeated sales, expected retention time divided by the average sale. So average sale is the sale, the amount of sale that they do. Like every month, how much do they spend? $50, let's say. Then the number of repeated sales. Since they are buying every month, that's 12 per year, and they stick with you for, let's say, 3 years. So that's 15 times. No, wait. Number of repeated sales, 12 per year, and then you do 3 years. So they purchase 36 times from you. So the amount of sale that they make every month, and then they purchase from you for 36 months consistently. And then number of repeated sales, I think, yeah. So number of repeated sales in a month, in a year would be 12, and then expected retention time would be, like, say, 3 years for us. So that's like a total of average sale into 12 into 3 divided by the average sale. That's the lifetime value of the customer. Wait, let me make sure I'm not saying something wrong. Yeah. So that's how you get the lifetime value of a customer. How much do they end up paying you? How many times do they pay you in a year? And then for how many years do you want to retain? Like, how many years do you expect to retain them? So that's like the whole sale value that the customer could ever bring to you, kind of an idea. Like, if a person purchases a Mercedes in year 1, they will not purchase the next year. Nobody purchases. I mean, normally, people, if they buy a car, they have it for years until they buy another car. So your lifetime value is a high ticket item. They might spend, $80,000 once, but they might not come back for another 5 years. So that's what the lifetime value looks like. And if a person is loyal to your brand, they might come for a new car after 5 to 7 years, and so on and so forth. So your lifetime value for a Mercedes and a fast fashion brand could be very similar, but the frequency of buying and the ticket item and all that kind of changes. So you have to see the lifetime value of the customer, so you know that's the max that the customer will bring in, that you expect. Of course, this is all forecasting. You can never know for sure. So lifetime value is what you expect the customer will end up spending with your company overall. That will guide your decision as to how much can I spend maximum on getting that customer. If getting that customer is more than what they'll end up spending, it's no use. You're worse off. You'll make a loss, even if you end up selling anything to anybody. So that's the concept of figuring out what lifetime value is, and then how much can you actually end up spending on marketing. Because always remember, the lifetime value has a sale value, but then you also have the cost of producing that product or service. So that's one cost, and then on top of that, there's a marketing cost. So your margins, your actual profit, will be your lifetime sale versus the lifetime cost that goes into those sales, and then marketing costs on top of that, and other operating costs of your company. So in order to make a profit, you need to have a very big buffer in your lifetime value of the customer versus what you spend just on marketing here. Because we're just talking about marketing, right? We're not talking about producing that product or service, because that's a cost for your company too. Nothing comes for free. So there should be ample, like, that's what the finance part actually, I think, touches on as well, as to how much do you end up spending on getting that customer, and then with all the cost of sales and everything, how much profit do you end up making. So this lifetime value guides you as to how much buffer do you need, like what's the max you can spend on getting a customer without having to make a loss. I hope that makes sense. Okay, next up. So they have a purchase cycle, how many orders per cycle and stuff like that. So that's, I hope you guys can now attempt these questions and get the answers right. Like, it's easier for you to now do that. So actually in section 17, interpreting lifetime value, they actually talk about what we just spoke about: high value customers, smaller value customers. So it's the same thing. I didn't know it actually spoke about that. It's been a while since I've done this, so sorry about that. But it's good we touched upon it, and this is good. So go through the exercises. If you still have questions and trouble understanding the concepts or something, hit me up on Slack. I'll be happy to answer all the questions. Starting the next section, which is sales metrics, I think I will cover that in another session, probably tomorrow. But whenever I do schedule these sessions, I put them on Slack for everyone to know. So you guys can come in and, ask any specific questions you have. Otherwise, these videos will be on and you guys can watch them at your convenient time for a recap. Well, with that, I think we are done for today. Thank you for joining, who all were here and who all will be watching this later on. Hopefully this helps you, and I'm glad to help out. So with that, let's end the session here. Sulaiman, do you have any feedback or any questions so far before we head out for the day? Let me know in the chat. Okay, looks like there are no more questions. So with that, I think this is the end of our stream. Thank you for joining. Whoever was able to join. For others who were not able to join, I hope this helps you when you watch the replay, and I hope good luck for your assessment. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for joining in. Stay healthy, hydrated, productive, and happy. Good luck for all the endeavors, all that you are studying and working on, and I'll see you next time.